Here we have the DVDs. So like the first Criterions I bought, 12 Angry Men, which is definitely regarded as an essential Criterion. Sidney Lumet's debut in a one location, one of the best one locations films I've ever seen. Blowout by Brian De Palma, which is to me is like his Vertigo. My definition of someone's Vertigo is their masterpiece because Vertigo is also Hitchcock's masterpiece. I think Blowout is definitely Brian De Palma's masterpiece. Highly inspired by Blowout, Blow Up by Michelangelo Antonioni, Blowout. This was actually one of the first Criterions I ever got 2 years ago. I actually didn't even know what a Criterion was when I bought it. I saw High and Low before, and I know I wanted the movie. And I got this one because I thought the art style was really cool. I didn't know what a Criterion collection was until I started getting into them later on. I definitely need to upgrade this one. High and Low. Definitely one of my favorite Kurosawas, along with Seven Samurai and Ron. This is definitely one of the greatest films ever made. Fritz Lang's M. This is one of those films where you get deep dived into the antagonist, where you really do feel for the antagonist. Another film I can think of, a modern film, which I believe has some inspiration of this film, is The Separation. M by Fritz Lang. Paths of Glory, definitely one of the last film I watched from Kubrick before I finished his filmography, starring Kirk Douglas. This was definitely one of Kubrick's greatest earliest films, along with The Killing. Rosemary's Baby by Roman Polanski. In my opinion, one of the greatest horror films ever made. This one was the DVD edition. I was gonna upgrade for the Blu-ray one, but it went out of print. So I ended up replacing with the normal Rosemary's Baby Blu-ray, but I'm still glad I have a Criterion of it. Rosemary's Baby. This one is a DVD of Some Like It Hot, which I upgraded on Blu-ray. And I'll end up selling this one. This is one of my favorites of Billy Wilder, along with Double Indemnity, Sunset Boulevard, The Apartment. One of Martin Scorsese's masterpieces, The Age of Innocence, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. Really enjoy this film, but it's also a film I have to be in the mood for, with some period films as well. But this one, like any Scorsese film, I can pretty much watch whenever. One of the more mainstream films on here, John Hughes' Breakfast Club, one of my favorites from his. Still haven't seen All That Jazz yet, but I definitely will sometime next week. One of the only few Criterions I still haven't seen. But I'm gonna watch it because Roy Scheider's in it, and I couldn't find it anywhere to stream. All That Jazz. This is one of the only films I see blind by. My favorite film by Stanley Kubrick, Barry Lyndon. One of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. Shot with lenses, what I believe they said they got from NASA. This is definitely one of those films where the environment also works well with the film. The Green Knight just came out in theaters, which I saw, and I could tell it had some inspiration with Barry Lyndon as well. My favorite Louis Buñuel film, Bella de Jour, starring Catherine Deneuve. Why I really enjoy this film is definitely the fantasy scene. When sometimes you can't tell which one is in fantasy or not sometimes, and you really get deep dive of what this character really is and what she won't present in front of her husband, and has to find actions by doing it by going to a hotel. Bella de Jour. I first heard about this film from seeing The Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth as Gilda. This one has been debated as a film noir as well, because I saw the commentary with Martin Scorsese. Definitely one of my favorites as well. One of my favorite horror films of all time, British film, The Innocents. Kagemusha, one of Akira Kurosawa's later films. I still have to watch Dreams in order to finish his entire filmography. Kiss Me Deadly, great film noir. One of the first Criterion film noirs I ever bought. The Inventor, one of the by the great Italian filmmaker Michelangelo Antonioni, and an out of print film La Dolce Vita, one of the very first films I bought as well. I just recently got the Essential Fellini, but I'm still keeping this film. One of my favorite color film noirs, one of the best use of Technicolor, Leave Her to Heaven. Colors definitely have a great use in the film, like as you see like in like the beginning, the use of green. The film that introduced me to this filmmaker, Jim Jarmusch, Mystery Train. I've only seen a few of his films, but currently this is one of my favorites of his. Next to Vertigo, this is my favorite Hitchcock film, Notorious, starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. Bergman plays an investigator to investigate a Nazi spy. Film you don't know whether or not Cary Grant really loves her or not, or what the relationship is between them, or if he's jealous, or really great film. Here we have Paul Thomas Anderson, an unusual role for Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love, because we usually know him for his comedies, and it's interesting to see him in a movie like this, along with Uncut Gems, which was one of my favorite films of 2019. Punch Drunk Love. Definitely a film around Seven Samurai. Great introduction for Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon. This was definitely a great film to introduce Americans to with Japanese cinema, because Americans were known for Western films, and it's a pretty straightforward film. And it does a daring sequence where they tell the story 3 different times, but it's a really great film. It has to do a lot about a modern world, like whether no one knows what's real or not. Everyone can make up their own story about an event. Rashomon. Red Shoes, one of the recent films that was going to be announced for 4K release, Long Mulholland Drive. I saw this on the Blu-ray and I really enjoyed it, so I'm not sure if I'll pick up the 4K or not. I'm still debating. Polanski's debut film, Repulsion, starring Catherine Deneuve. Similar to Bella DeJour, her character in this film, with the dreams in this one, she's more scared of them, while in this one, she's more turned on by them. So, Repulsion. An updated Blu-ray of Some Like It Hot, starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Marilyn Monroe, from Billy Wilder. Definitely one of the best paced films, and definitely a great entry for the Criterion, especially if you want to see a Marilyn Monroe film. The Uninvited, a film that changed the early days of horror, because many early horror films were haunted houses were mostly for comedy, but this one is a true horror. The Uninvited. The film is all about Eve, as you probably heard from other Criterion films. Great film, terrible packaging. Next is Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up. This was a film that inspired Brian De Palma's Blowout. This and L'Inventore are my favorite of his, but I definitely need to rewatch this one as well. Blow Up. Another favorite of mine is David Lynch, Blue Velvet. Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard. This is definitely one of the films that started the French New Waves of cinema. Definitely recommend. This is Mirror by Andrei Tarkovsky, one of who I'd probably describe as a poet filmmaker. This may not be a film for everybody, but I definitely do like it, and it's definitely a great film. And it's definitely a film you just need to experience, the way how Tarkovsky once described it. I really did enjoy this film. I wouldn't be honest if I said I knew everything about it, but my experience with this film was none other than any other film before this. Mirror, one of my favorite films of all time. Third Man by Carla Reed. This was a film that originally was going to ban its on-location shootings, but I'm glad they didn't, because it has some of the best exterior shots of all time. in the location of the film and Orson Welles reveal as the reveal. I want to spoil it if you haven't seen how it's revealed, but as his character is one of the greatest scenes in cinema history. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, definitely regarded as one of his masterpieces. I actually saw this in the film about a year ago. Really great film from Lee. Other films I like is Malcolm X, The 25th Hour, Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Currently, the last Criterion I bought. Really great digipack and great packaging. One of the funniest films ever made. Huge fan of Stanley Kubrick. Eraserhead, David Lynch's debut film. I had already watched Twin Peaks before getting into this, so I was already interested in David Lynch. Very great debut film. It's like somewhat of a psychological horror film. Eraserhead. This is my favorite film from David Lynch and my favorite modern film, Mulholland Drive, from the 21st century. Definitely recommend this. Maybe Eraserhead first, but definitely recommend Mulholland Drive. Here's a film, Sweet Smell of Success, starring Burt Lancaster and Tony Curtis. I believe this is the film that inspired Mad Men as well. Really great film. Film noir, which has to do with the newspaper industry as well as journalism. Here's one of the films that got me into Japanese cinema, along with Seven Samurai started it. Ugetsu. Really great film. This is a film I recently watched. The Battle of Algiers. Definitely in my top favorite. This is definitely one of my favorites. I have to rewatch, but I think it'll make my top 5. Here's the one that started all, Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. This is definitely a great entry point in Criterion, which is a film most people start in, and I here recommend. Here we have America Lost and Found, the BBS story. It's the Colors trilogy, blue, white, and red. Out of the 3, blue is definitely my favorite. Red is pretty close. I did enjoy white as well, but compared to the other 2, blue and red were my favorites, and blue being the #1 favorite. Reference, I believe, to the French flag, blue, white, and red, Colors trilogy. This one is a massive set, Ingmar Bergman Cinema. My favorites from these films are Persona, Scenes of Marriage, Cries and Whispers, Seventh Seal. We have the iconic shot from Persona with Liv Dolman. I still haven't finished the films, and right now I'm on like page 94 of the booklet. Here we have the essential Fellini set. Fellini, one of the kings of the Italian neorealism. My favorites from him are La Strada, La Dolce Vita, Nights of Cabiria, 8.5, Juliet of the Spirits. I'll end this video with showing these 2 guys. And this is the end of my haul. Hope you enjoyed it.